So the first thing you might notice is that we're looking at an equation y equals mx. So that should look a little bit like our point slope form, right? So we just don't have a b, right? So what do you think b is? 0, right? So these direct variation are going to be proportional relationships. So this proportional linear relationship is called a direct variation. The constant ratio is also called the constant of variation or the constant of proportionality. So in this equation, the m represents the constant of variation, the constant of proportionality, the slope, and the unit rate. So all of those things are the same, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 different names, but all the same thing in this case. A direct variation is a linear relationship in which the ratio of y to x is a constant m. We say y varies directly with x. So m is equal to y divided by x, or y equals mx, where m is the constant of variation. All right, so this is going up 2 over 1 each time because our slope is 2. Page 214, the slope of the graph of y equals mx is m. Since 0, 0 is one solution of y equals mx, right? Our y-intercept is 0, so it goes through at 0. The graph of a direct variation relationship always passes through the origin, right? So if we want to remember this, b is equal to 0, y-intercept. So you can use the slope formula to derive the direct variation equation. So if one point is always 0, we're only going to have to do y2 minus, or y2 divided by x2, because here, if it's y2 minus y1, y1 is 0, y2 was y, and here x2 is x, so that's what they put in there. X1 is 0, which leaves us with simply y over x. In other words, if we were solving for y, if y divided by x equals m, we would have to multiply both sides by x to cancel it out here to end up with y equals mx. So that is just deriving that formula. All right, so I think having gone through that other packet first should help us greatly, because we're looking at direct variation equations. We're just going to be putting the slope in. So we have to find the slope using the graph. Well, since it's going through 0, 0, our slope is always going to be that rate. Where x is 1, that's going to be going up 10 over 1. So it's always going to be 10 over 1. Or if you're looking between these 2 points, it's still going up 10 over 1, right? So our slope is 10 over 1. Hey. Choose with Ms. Knox. So the slope of the line is 10 over 1, or we can call that 10. So remember, our slope is equal to m. So we are going to replace m with 10 to write our equation. So this is what we did before, right? Y equals mx plus b, but b is equal to 0 in this case. So let's look at Part B, find the constant of variation and interpret its meaning. So the constant of variation is always that coefficient, or m, 10 over 1 or 10. This means that it is the unit rate, or cost per session is $10. So $10 per session is our unit rate. Remember, our unit rate is always the same as our slope. So that got us caught up a little bit on one of our questions on the last quiz. There was really one question when they made it two. The time y it takes for you to hear thunder varies directly with your distance from the lightning. Did you ever used to count between thunder and when you saw the lightning to see how close it was? Or
Oh, I did that like
or between lightning and thunder to try and figure out how close it was? Write a direct variation equation. So we just need to find m, which is our slope, which in this case, remember, is y over x. So if we pick any point, this y value is 5. This x value is 1. So what is our slope? 5. So can we write a direct variation equation? If we have y equals mx, we're putting this 5 in for m. So y equals 5x. You remember doing this with our point slope form? So identify the constant of variation and interpret its meaning. So 5 is our constant of variation. Remember, we're going to look at our labels. We're going to do this label divided by this label. So seconds per mile. Remember, per means divided by. We use a fraction bar for per often, so hopefully that helps. But just like we found the slope to be the y value divided by the x value, we can figure out how we would translate it and interpret it with our labels on the graph. Okay? All right, so let's look here. Sometimes they're going to tell us the two things we need. So if we're trying to find a unit rate for cost, we want, if cost varies directly with the weight, we're going to do cost divided by weight. So here, if it's $5.80 for 2 pounds, to write that as a fraction will help us figure it out. So now we just need to do that. 5.8 divided by 2, 2.9. Which really means $2.90 per pound, right? So now we're going to use that to write our equation. We're going to write 2.9. You can put a 0 at the end. Either way. So that's our direct variation equation. From this equation, we know that our unit rate is the same as our constant of variation, which is 2.9. This means the cost per pound of peanuts is $2.90. Okay? So it's just like we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Try the check. If Olivia the amount of money she earns varies directly with the number of weeks she works. After 4 weeks, Olivia earned $3,000. So do you think it would make sense to figure out weeks per dollar or dollar per weeks? I would think we would probably want to figure out dollars per weeks. So if we want dollars per week, or week, we really want to divide dollars divided by weeks. So we're going to take 3,000 and divide it by the number of weeks, which is 4. So that will help us find our M, right? So 3,000 divided by 4, 750. And then in our equation, remember our equation was y equals mx. We're going to put m in for, 750 in for m. So we have y is equal to 750x. That's it. So then we're identifying the constant of variation. So 750, and interpret its meaning. We did dollars per week, so we're going to call this dollars per week. Does that make sense? That process? All right, last. Change in y divided by change in x. So write a direct variation. So we still have to find m. So change in y, we can say 8 minus 4. See, they're doing this again. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. This is good practice. Remember, this is Y2 minus Y1. I don't know too many of you that got this correct on the quiz, so it's important that you're taking good notes and understanding this. So for any 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, we can find the slope to find the change in y, being y2 minus y1. So I would plug in 8 for y2, 4 for y1. And then on the bottom, we have x2 minus x1. So I'm going to put in 4 for x2 and 2 for x1. And then I simply have to do it. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then I would simplify. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then we would replace that m with our slope of 2 and have to know what it means. So here, if it's y divided by x, we're taking cups of flour per cups of oats. So this means that it is 2 cups of flour per cup of oats. All right, so let's try this last check together. Time it takes Madeline to swim laps is shown in the table. The time swimming varies directly with the number of laps she swims. So we can find our change in y. 90 minus 45 will give us that. Divided by our change in x, 2 minus 1. So we're left with 45 over 1. This is m. We're just putting it into our equation. And that 45 is 45 what? What is y? Seconds per lap. Seconds per lap. Remember, if you're looking for your label, you're thinking y divided by x, or the top per the bottom. Seconds per laps. That's where I'm coming up with that. So if you're not sure, look back at your labels in your table or on your graph. All right, so that just leaves you with a few to practice these last 20 minutes. On page 223. So you're finding the slope and writing these in the form y equals mx. So you're writing a variation equation and then you're interpreting what it means. Remember, y divided by x. So this is going to be dollars per ticket. Remember to read your graph. So if this is 8 divided by 1, that's going to be $8 per ticket. M is going to be 8. And number 1 is pretty much already done for you. So try those out for practice. For sure.